for everybody who's saying this is a bubble, I must tell you that after all this bubbling, we still have only 5.5 crore investors in mutual funds in India. Our penetration is still about 20% of GDP when global average is 80%. So what you are seeing is a natural process of financialization. एक बदलाव आ रहा है इस देश में जहाँ लोग फिजिकल एसेट्स हैं, जो गोल्ड है, रियल एस्टेट है और कैश है, उसको छोड़ के फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स की तरफ जा रहे हैं। और इस प्रोसेस में सब कुछ सही नहीं होगा। लेट मी ऑल्सो से दैट कुछ लोग गलत तरीके से इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, कुछ लोग स्पेकुलेट करेंगे एफएनओ जैसी चीज़ों में। अभी हमने गेमिंग में देखा क्या हुआ, वो सब भी होगा। थोड़ा सा फ्रॉथ, थोड़ी आइसिंग हर केक पे होती है, लेकिन केक की फाउंडेशंस मुझे लगता है बहुत सॉलिड। इनफैक्ट द बीटा ऑफ इंडियन मार्केट्स टू ग्लोबल मार्केट्स हैज कम डाउन फ्रॉम 1.5 to 0.4। तो हमारे यहाँ वॉलेटिलिटी कम हो गई है, इसलिए ये माहौल बहुत वॉलेटाइल लगता है। नाउ आई थिंक टू द फैक्ट कि हम कुछ बदल रहे हैं, of course portfolios we are constantly aligning. Like I'll tell you, we used to be very heavily loaded on capital goods kind of companies, and then somewhere last year we started moving more towards consumption and IT. इस दौरान इतनी सेक्टर्स पे इतनी न्यूज़ आ रही है, कभी फार्मा में टैरिफ होगा, नहीं होगा, टैरिफ पे टैरिफ, कौन से सेक्टर पे टैरिफ। सो देयर आर 2 kinds of risks in AMC, typic 3 kinds actually. One is कैश कॉल्स के मार्केट में रहना है या नहीं है, वो हम अपने फंड्स में लेते ही नहीं है। दूसरा, बहुत सेक्टर पे आप एक्सट्रीम खेल रहे हो कि अभी फार्मा में 20%, फिर राइट। So we are not taking large sector and cash call risk. We are taking more stock specific risk. So we are being closer to benchmark in terms of sector allocations. But जहाँ हम risk ले रहे हैं is within those sectors, कौन से stocks में हम वो करें, पोजीशंस लें। और उस टाइम मेरा म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री से कोई ताल्लुकात नहीं था, बट मैं यूएस से आई थी। मैं तो तब से खुद ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टिंग कर रही हूँ। मेरे पोर्टफोलियो में जब म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री में ऑप्शंस बहुत कम थे, तभी भी ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर था, क्योंकि मेरा मानना था और अब भी मानना है कि वाइल इंडिया इज अ गुड गेम इन टाउन, इट्स अ ग्रेट गेम, इट्स नॉट द ओनली गेम। अलग अलग दौर में अलग अलग मार्केट्स अच्छा करते हैं। आई हैव सीन पीरियड्स वेयर चाइना हैज डन टेरिबली एंड इंडिया हैज डन एक्सेप्शनली वेल, एंड वी हैव सीन पीरियड्स लाइक लास्ट ईयर वेयर एज यू पॉइंटेड आउट, चाइना हैज बीन द बेस्ट परफॉर्मिंग मार्केट इन द लास्ट ईयर एंड इंडिया हैज नॉट बीन अ ग्रेट मार्केट। IPO market छोड़ दो, I think the pre-IPO market is full of bubbles. There's chaos going on. People are buying pre-IPO companies as if, you know, Italy has been discovered again. And they are assuming कि मैं किसी भी भाव पे pre-IPO में ले लूँगा और वो IPO उससे ज़्यादा का होगा। क्यों होगा भाई?
अगर हम एक और ट्रेंड की बात करें, वो आजकल है to do with entrepreneurship. You're an entrepreneur yourself, you invest in startups. Lot of young professionals feel that we want to get there.
Yeah.
Right? When do you know that an idea is meant for the world versus it's meant for you?
I always tell prospective entrepreneurs, it's great that you want to embrace this path, but you have to embrace it for the right reasons and at the right time. I think there is a cloud of startup romance these days. चलिए business center में, let's go sit in a WeWork and drink coffee and come to work in cool clothes and run a startup and have a valuation. I can promise you, having sold one company and now building another company that's also just raised capital, there's no romance to this. And if there is romance, वो 6-12 महीने में चला जाता है।
Investing में we always talk about the power of compounding. That's sort of a given, right? But are there any other investing principles that you feel retail investors overlook?
I mean, there's a long list, but I think.
Hi everyone, welcome to Grow. My name is Radhika Bajaj. My guest today is someone who has brought an incredible amount of credibility, clarity, and innovation in the mutual funds industry in India. She's certainly a force to be reckoned with. Her personal journey and her professional life are an inspiration for millions of investors and also women. It's such a pleasure for me to introduce to you Radhika Gupta, MD and CEO, Edelweiss Asset Management. So it's an absolute pleasure for me to welcome to Grow Radhika Gupta, MD and CEO of Edelweiss Asset Management. Such a pleasure to have you with us, Radhika.
Thank you very much.
Radhika, you know, if we look at the mutual fund space in India, we look at the AUMs, it's crossed 75 lakh crore rupees now. You look at insurance, it's around 62 lakh crore rupees, and FDs still above 100 lakh crore rupees. So there is concern, while it's great, I mean, mutual funds have made investing accessible, but a concern here that it is a bubble, because if you look at valuations in the Indian market, they're
Yeah.
close to what's happening in the US. Is it a bubble? What is your take on it?
सो आई थिंक ये जो बबल टाइप शब्द हैं ये बहुत लाइटली यूज होते हैं बिकॉज वी नेवर सीन दीज काइंड ऑफ नंबर्स बिफोर. चाहे 75 लाख करोड़ की म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री हो, 28,000 करोड़ का मंथली सिप बुक हो, तो लोग इनको देख के थोड़ा चौंक से जाते हैं. बट आई डोंट थिंक चौंकना चाहिए बिकॉज there can be short-term valuation discussions that we can have. But I think it is very important to zoom out and look at the structural trend that is happening. And that trend is one of financialization. Actually, Goldman Sachs put out a very interesting recent report that जब एक इकोनॉमी में पर कैपिटा इनकम 2,500 से 5,000 से $10,000 की तरफ जाती है, तो आपकी जो बेसिक नीड्स होती हैं, जिसको हम रोटी कपड़ा मकान कहते हैं, वो पूरी हो जाती हैं. एंड देन पीपल्स प्रोपेंसिटी टू सेव एंड टू इन्वेस्ट गोज अप. And this happened in the US, this happened in China, and this happened in India. For everybody who is saying this is a bubble, I must tell you that after all this bubbling, we still have only 5.5 crore investors in mutual funds in India. Our penetration is still about 20% of GDP, when global average is 80%. So what you are seeing is a natural process of financialization. एक बदलाव आ रहा है इस देश में, जहाँ लोग फिजिकल एसेट्स हैं, जो गोल्ड है, रियल एस्टेट है और कैश है, उसको छोड़ के फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स की तरफ जा रहे हैं. और इस प्रोसेस में सब कुछ सही नहीं होगा. लेट मी ऑल्सो से दैट कुछ लोग गलत तरीके से इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, कुछ लोग स्पेकुलेट करेंगे एफएनओ जैसी चीज़ों में. अभी हमने गेमिंग में देखा क्या हुआ, वो सब भी होगा. थोड़ा सा फ्रॉथ, थोड़ी आइसिंग हर केक पे होती है, लेकिन केक की फाउंडेशंस मुझे लगता है बहुत सॉलिड है.
That's a great way of putting it. But currently, you look at the geopolitical developments, you look at the macroeconomics. Is that a concern to you? For example, are you changing your portfolio management strategy? एक दिन tariff है, एक दिन नहीं है. So we don't know that.
तो I would say कि the second half of 2024 and 2025 have been reasonably volatile years. And they feel more volatile because कोविड के बाद हमने वॉलेटिलिटी देखी नहीं है. If you look at the last year where there was some kind of meaningful correction in equity markets, it was 2015. If you look at the last year where there was a meaningful correction and the correction went on for some time, ये नहीं है कि गिर के फिर बढ़ गया जैसे कोविड में हुआ और अभी हुआ, that was 2013. तो एक आदत से पड़ गई है कि वॉलेटिलिटी होगी ही नहीं. In fact, the beta of Indian markets to global markets has come down from 1.5 to 0.4. तो हमारे यहाँ volatility कम हो गई है, इसलिए ये माहौल बहुत volatile लगता है. Now, I think to the fact कि हम कुछ बदल रहे हैं, of course, portfolios we are constantly aligning. Like I'll tell you, we used to be very heavily loaded on capital goods kind of companies. And then somewhere last year we started moving more towards consumption and IT. इस दौरान इतनी सेक्टर्स पे इतनी न्यूज़ आ रही है, कभी फार्मा में टैरिफ होगा, नहीं होगा, टैरिफ पे टैरिफ, कौन से सेक्टर पे टैरिफ. सो देर आर टू काइंड्स ऑफ रिस्क्स इन AMC, टिपिक 3 kinds एक्चुअली. वन इज़ कैश कॉल्स कि मार्केट में रहना है या नहीं है, वो हम अपने फंड्स में लेते ही नहीं हैं. दूसरा, बहुत सेक्टर पे आप एक्सट्रीम खेल रहे हो कि अभी फार्मा में 20%, फिर राइट. So we are not taking large sector and cash call risk. We are taking more stock specific risk. So we are being closer to benchmark in terms of sector allocations. But जहाँ हम risk ले रहे हैं is within those sectors, कौन से stocks में हम वो करें, positions लें. So that is the kind of tweaking that we do in our portfolios to reflect the times that we live in. But I fundamentally believe that when people come to us and they buy an Edelweiss mid-cap fund or an Edelweiss balanced advantage fund, वो 5-7 साल के लिए निवेश कर रहे हैं. एंड व्हेन यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग फॉर 5-7 years, what matters is the medium term outlook on the Indian economy. What matters is the corporate earnings growth. So that's one thing we have a laser focus.
A quick follow up, आपने cash calls की बात की अभी. Can you explain that a little bit? Because what happens is, are you saying that you want to not take cash calls, you want to stay invested? Because there is a point of view that when there is so much volatility, it's okay to sit on cash.
Yes, and I think there is a lot of debate around this, and we have debated this many, many years ago when we were setting up the policies for Edelweiss Mutual Fund. And we are very clear that in funds that are not hybrid funds में तो आप कैश लेते हो क्योंकि उनका काम, बट जैसे लार्ज कैप फंड है, मिड कैप फंड है, स्मॉल कैप फंड है, जो इक्विटी फंड्स हैं वहाँ हम 3-4% से ज़्यादा कैश नहीं रखते, हालांकि रेगुलेशंस हमें अलाउ करती हैं, क्योंकि हमारा मानना है कि जब कस्टमर हमें मिड कैप फंड में या लार्ज कैप फंड में या फ्लेक्सी कैप फंड में पैसा देता है तो वो इन्वेस्टेड रहने के लिए पैसा देता है। अगर उसे कैश कॉल लेनी है, एडवाइज़र कह रहा है, तो वो खुद पोर्टफोलियो में लेगा। वी ऑल्सो बिलीव कि इट्स वेरी प्रिटी टू से कि oh, you know, market's going to fall, hold cash. It is very difficult to take cash calls in practice. और इसमें गलत जाने की गुंजाइश विदाउट टेकिंग फंड नेम्स बहुत ज़्यादा है। आप 25% कैश कॉल ले लेते हो, कल मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक माहौल बदल जाता है विच नोबडी कैन फोरकास्ट, और वो कैश कॉल बहुत बुरी तरह से गलत जाती है। तो हम वी प्राइड आवर सेल्स ऑन कंसिस्टेंसी इन आवर फंड आउटकम्स, बिकॉज कस्टमर्स हमारे यहाँ एक टाइम नहीं आते और एक टाइम नहीं जाते, रोज़ आते हैं और रोज़ जाते हैं, एंड वी हैव टू डिलीवर अ कंसिस्टेंट एक्सपीरियंस टू ऑल आवर कंज्यूमर्स।
Sure. That's very well explained. I just want to pick your brains about the global environment right now and the returns that we've seen. For example, Nifty 50 maybe have seen very modest returns, 1 to 2%. If you look at NASDAQ, it's been much higher. If you look at the Hang Seng Tech Index, surged to 70%, right? So is there enough opportunity for Indian investors to get a piece of that pie? And would you recommend that exposure to global indices is a must for Indian investors today?
So we run some of the largest international funds in the country, one of the largest US tech funds, the largest diversified China fund in the country. And, you know, personally I'll tell you, when I came to India back in 2011, और उस टाइम मेरा म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री से कोई ताल्लुकात नहीं था, बट मैं यूएस से आई थी। मैं तो तब से खुद ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टिंग कर रही हूँ। मेरे पोर्टफोलियो में जब म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री में ऑप्शंस बहुत कम थे, तभी भी ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर था, क्योंकि मेरा मानना था और अब भी मानना है कि वाइल इंडिया इज़ अ गुड गेम इन टाउन, इट्स अ ग्रेट गेम, इट्स नॉट द ओनली गेम। अलग अलग दौर में अलग अलग मार्केट्स अच्छा करते हैं। आई हैव सीन पीरियड्स वेयर चाइना हैज़ डन टेरिबली and India has done exceptionally well, and we've seen periods like last year, whereas you pointed out China has been the best performing market in the last year and India has not been a great market. So this happens. In fact, India and China, I believe, because they are competing emerging markets, almost have some kind of inverse relationship. So I believe global investing is important. Exposure to US and China, जो कि दुनिया की दो major economies हैं, वो important है। and बहुत सारे sectors इंडिया में represented ही नहीं है। जैसे अगर आपको हाई टेक रिसर्च का काम करना है फार्मास्यूटिकल्स में, हमारे यहाँ ज़्यादातर डोमेस्टिक फॉर्मुलेशंस, एपीआई और जेनेरिक्स ही होते हैं। अगर आपको सेमीकंडक्टर्स में एक्सपोजर चाहिए तो आप वो कहाँ से लेंगे? अगर आपको स्ट्रीमिंग एज अ कैटेगरी में एक्सपोजर चाहिए तो आप वो कहाँ से लेंगे? सो लॉट ऑफ कंपनीज आर नॉट रिप्रेजेंटेड बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टेज ऑफ आवर मार्केट एवोल्यूशन। आवर लार्जेस्ट एक्सचेंज इज नॉट अ लिस्टेड कंपनी टुडे। So I think global exposure is important. Now, unfortunately, what has happened is, because of the limits that regulators have, investors are not able to take global exposure. Most of us have funds, but they are closed. I get a message every day saying, when will you open Edelweiss Greater China and US Tech Fund? So they're not open for large flows, retail flows we still take. I'm hoping the regulator will revise those limits. We are also enabling multiple options for consumers through Gift City. To invest in the same funds using the LRS limits, and we keep appealing to the regulator to also change this.
And I think investors are with you on that front. आपने इंडिया वापस आने की बात करी, and when you came back, you co-founded Forefront Capital Management. Many regard it as the first domestic hedge fund. India में this industry hasn't really picked up. So do you see AIFs as the alternative, and what is the future for AIFs?
So I think the hedge fund industry has been a bit of a mixed bag. I think Category 3 AIFs came out and they gave a lot of flexibility, not hedge fund kind of flexibility. Derivatives में invest करने के लिए, to take naked short positions, to hold some kind of leverage, काफ़ी flexibility मिली. I think the reason the Cat 3 AIF industry इतनी बढ़ी नहीं है क्योंकि taxation काफ़ी डिफ़िकल्ट रहा है। आज अगर आप एक डेरिवेटिव ओरिएंटेड कैट 3 AIF में, जिसको हम लॉन्ग शॉर्ट कहते हैं, निवेश करें तो 40% आपका टैक्सेशन फंड लेवल पे लगता है। I see this changing with the advent of specialized investment funds. Some of you guys know कि सिर्फ एक नई कैटेगरी है जो रेगुलेटर ने इंट्रोड्यूस की है, और मुझे लगता है दिस विल बी द टेक ऑफ ऑफ हेज फंड काइंड ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स, क्योंकि इसमें AIF वाली काफ़ी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी मिली है, स्पेशली अराउंड डेरिवेटिव्स, लेकिन म्यूचुअल फंड वाला स्ट्रक्चर एंड टैक्सेशन एंड एक्सेसिबिलिटी एट 10 lakhs मिला है. So we have our brand Altivan, which we are going to launch our SIF products, and we hope to have one in the market reasonably soon. But मुझे लगता है इस इंडस्ट्री में अच्छा काम हो सकता है.
So what are the levers जो SIF प्रोवाइड करता है जो अदरवाइज इन्वेस्टर्स को अवेलेबल नहीं है?
I think 3 levers. पहला, सिर्फ आपको नेकेड शॉर्ट करने देता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि म्यूचुअल फंड्स में आप डेरिवेटिव्स नहीं यूज़ कर सकते. यू कैन. Arbitrage fund is built on derivatives. But if I am buying, let's just say, ABC Bank, 50 rupees long, I can short, but I have to short 50 rupees of ABC Bank in equal quantity. I can't be net short, so I can't profit from the shares of ABC Bank falling. That I can do in SIF. So derivative की flexibility और short position hold करने की flexibility किसी मार्केट के गिरने से या किसी स्टॉक या सेक्टर के गिरने से अगर मैं फ़ायदा कमा सकती हूँ, वो सिर्फ मुझे दे सकता है. दूसरा, फिक्स्ड इनकम की फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी. मैं लोअर रेटेड पेपर पकड़ सकती हूँ, मैं रीट और इन्वेट ज़्यादा मात्रा में होल्ड कर सकती हूँ, ये फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी. तीसरा, विच इन्वेस्टर्स मे बी सरप्राइज्ड व्हाई आई एम प्रेजिंग, बट इट इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट, MF स्ट्रक्चर में आपको डेली सब्सक्रिप्शन और रिडेम्पशन मिलता है. Now, this means कि फंड मैनेजर के हाथ बंधे हुए हैं, because if I am giving you daily redemption, I have to hold things that are very very liquid. अब रीट और इन्वेट जैसी चीज़ें हैं, ये बहुत अच्छी चीज़ें हैं, लेकिन ये रोज़ ट्रेडेबल नहीं है. सिर्फ मैं ऐसे प्रोडक्ट्स बना सकती हूँ जहाँ मैं प्लान्ड रिडेम्पशन कर सकती हूँ. आपको वंस अ वीक रिडेम्पशन दे सकती हूँ, जो कि काफ़ी अच्छा है, लेकिन इससे मैं थोड़े से हायर यील्डिंग इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होल्ड कर सकती हूँ. तो ये 3 चीज़ें मुझे लगता है नई फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है जो SIF देता है.
Is there a particular stage in an investor's journey where they should look at products like SIF and AIF?
Definitely, these are not beginner products. I am repeating, this is, I have used the framework dal chawal many times. This is not dal chawal. This is pickle, this is chutney. So you have to get your dal chawal allocation.
Pickle and chutney at that level of allocation.
Yeah, it is pickle.
फिर तो दाल ही हो गई.
नहीं, pickle and chutney, I mean, this is not a first time investor's allocation.
Sure.
Depending on the kind of SIF you're looking at, this is a product for someone who has a 1 to 5 crore liquid net worth at minimum. अगर आपका उससे कम liquid net worth है तो आप प्लीज़ मत देखिए. And you have to be market savvy. I strongly recommend you take some advice, you take some help before you buy a SIF. बिकॉज सिर्फ में मुझे लगता है बहुत सारी मिसकनसेप्शंस हैं मार्केट में. फॉर इंस्टेंस, पीपल थिंक सिर्फ आया कितने मल्टीबाइगर मिलेंगे. सिर्फ एक्चुअली बिकॉज ऑफ द डेरिवेटिव्स यूसेज इज मेंट टू बी अ रिस्क एडजस्टेड रिटर्न प्रोडक्ट, एंड डिफरेंट सिफ्स फ्रॉम डिफरेंट फंड हाउसेज विल बी वेरी डिफरेंट. सो आई वुड एडवाइज यू टू बी वेरी थॉटफुल, टू डू इट ओनली इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड इट, एंड इट्स at an evolved stage of your investing journey.
So SIFs and AIFs are something that are exciting people. IPOs are the other thing that do. And we saw a bit of a lull, but ab ek baar phir we are seeing a new wave of IPOs. What's your take, and what are some of the red flags that you'll watch out for?
Again, we run India's only retail IPO fund, recently listed IPO fund. So we look at the IPO markets quite carefully, and we have been for some time. So firstly, I structurally think that the IPO market will continue to be a very exciting place, because a lot of private capital has entered India. We all know household companies that have achieved unicorn, decacorn status, and this private capital needs an exit. And now these companies are so large that the only exit they're going to get is through the IPO market. And as I said, it's not only new age unicorns and all and tech companies that are listing. Even old school brands, like one of India's largest food brands, fast food QSR brands, I mean, I'm a Delhi girl, we grew up watching them, is going to be an IPO bound company. India's largest stock exchange is going to be an IPO bound company. So you will have old age, new age, tech, non-tech, consumer brand companies coming to IPO, and you will have good ones and you will have some terrible ones. So I think for consumers and investors, you have to be very discerning when you think about IPOs. Not every IPO is a good one, and you have to evaluate why a company is coming to the IPO market, what the fundamentals of a company are, इसकी pricing सही है. For instance, आजकल आपने सवाल नहीं पूछा, IPO market छोड़ दो. I think the pre-IPO market is full of bubbles. There's chaos going on. People are buying pre-IPO companies as if, Italy has been discovered again. And they are assuming कि मैं किसी भी भाव पे प्री आईपीओ में ले लूंगा और वो आईपीओ उससे ज़्यादा का होगा. क्यों होगा भाई? एट सम पॉइंट जो प्राइवेट मार्केट है और पब्लिक मार्केट है, उन दोनों में कन्वर्जेंस आएगी. तो आपको सोच समझ कर काम करना है, कंपनी देख के काम करना है, क्यों वो पैसा रेस कर रही है, एग्जिट है, क्यों है, किस भाव पे है. एंड रिमेंबर, IPO is never the end of a company. It is just a point in a company's life where it flips the switch from private shareholding to public shareholding. A lot of companies, I believe, that come for IPO are not even ready for the IPO market. They come for the luster of IPOs. So I think you have to make sure that the company that's coming to the IPO market has a clear story, is able to tell that story, and is able to show profitability growth consistently. Otherwise, it's not ready.
But Radhika, there are many examples that we have seen where listing price से 20 to 40% नीचे हम देख रहे हैं.
होगा, बिल्कुल होगा.
Right? Should that be a cautionary tale?
I think it's a reminder whether if from the pre-IPO price or the listing price, companies are down 20, 40, 50%. So there is no sanctity to the listing price. The problem is we look at these IPO prices, we think, oh, grey market premium, इससे तो ज़्यादा ही होगा. भाई क्यों ज़्यादा होगा? It's just a point. It's a flipping of the switch in the company from private shareholding to public shareholding. Finally, a company will tell its story based on fundamentals. और public markets बहुत cruel जगह है. They're actually a very, very cruel place for companies. So, if you are coming out with a pricing that is unfair to shareholders, and you're not able to show the earnings growth, you will get hammered in the IPO market. And we've seen that.
Absolutely, we have.
And some of these companies are good companies at bad prices. So wait for it to fall after the IPO. I mean, we do this in our fund.
Right.
I think if X companies come to the market, we who run a full IPO fund, we say no to 70% of those companies. Imagine. Because we're like, बाद में देखेंगे ना.
That is a huge statement in itself कि आप खुद ही ना बोलते हैं. अगर हम एक और ट्रेंड की बात करें, वो आजकल है to do with entrepreneurship. You're an entrepreneur yourself. You invest in startups. Lot of young professionals feel that we want to get there.
Yeah.
Right? When do you know that an idea is meant for the world versus it's meant for you?
I meet lots of entrepreneurs. I met one just yesterday. As you said, I invest in a bunch of unlisted companies, especially post Shark Tank, and there's some very exciting stuff going on. I always tell prospective entrepreneurs, it's great that you want to embrace this path, but you have to embrace it for the right reasons and at the right time. I think there is a cloud of startup romance these days. Chaliye, business center mein, let's go sit in a WeWork and drink coffee and come to work in cool clothes and run a startup and we'll have a valuation. I can promise you, having sold one company and now building another company that's also just raised capital, there's no romance to this. And if there is romance, वो 6-12 महीने में चला जाता है. Entrepreneurship is a tough, long road with more downs than ups, to be frank. I think what I tell entrepreneurs is you have to be brutal in asking yourself the question, am I solving a real problem? Because if you're not, you're building a company for yourself. I meet entrepreneurs who, as I said, are trying to grow mushrooms. And some of those markets, some of those problems are problems in search of a solution. I mean, they're solutions in search of a problem. And you don't want to be a solution in search of a problem. You need to be solving a problem for a reasonably large number of people, not just your friends and family. And you need to be able to get paid for solving that problem. If you can do that, you have proof of concept, and then you should go out. and build a business. Don't build a business for the sake of calling yourself an entrepreneur. Solve a problem for a large number of people and be able to make money doing it.
Solve the problem. Yeah.
Solve a problem.
Well done. Well said. Want to go back to some of the products at Edelweiss. Now, factor-based funds are something that you are popularizing,
Yes.
but it's fairly new. So, can you
Yes.
explain what does it entail?
So I think everyone's familiar with passive market cap based funds. कि निफ्टी है, इंडेक्स है, मार्केट का एक्सपोजर देता है, चलो निफ्टी 50 कर लेते हैं. What if I now say कि instead of buying all the companies in the Nifty, I'm only going to buy the ones that have shown momentum, the ones that have done well relative to others in the last 1 year. So then you become a momentum oriented fund. So the similarity to your normal passive funds is कि rule अभी भी है, but rather than buying the whole market, you're using a rule to buy a segment of the market. Now that could be quality, that could be momentum, that could be a blend of funds. So factor based funds let you be very targeted with your investing. I only want to buy low volatility companies. I only want to buy quality companies. I only want to buy momentum oriented companies. That's all they are. When a fund manager typically invests, they also use factors. If you go to my active fund managers and say, आप कंपनी कैसे चूज करते हैं, they don't think, company. There is some criteria.
Yeah, of course.
They may want cheap companies, they may want high ROE companies. Factor-based funds are just turning English into maths.
Turning
English into math.
English into a math. Okay. Great way of explaining that. Another innovative product that came from you was the Bharat Bond ETF,
Yeah.
right? And when you look back now, do you think there is opportunity to come up with more products that are kind of tied into what public policy is doing?
I hope so. I mean, I keep chatting with ministry and government on this. But I think when there is real public-private partnership, you can build products of scale and credibility. Because when we did Bharat Bond, I think the fact that you had these central public sector enterprises, अगर Government of India के bonds के बाद किसी को किसी चीज़ में भरोसा है, it is state-owned companies, your NHAIs and PFCs and NABARDs. These are large state-owned companies, and when you give people a chance to take as little as 1,000 rupees and buy a basket of these bonds, and you say this is a collab between a private AMC and a public initiative, I think it becomes very powerful. And finally, Bharat Bond became 60,000 crores very quickly. I'm in the process of discussing actually some interesting ideas, and I hope some of them come to fruition, because India has very targeted needs. Young India has different needs, retiring India has different needs, women have different needs. Can we bridge it?
Yeah, so as we're looking to sort of becoming a $10 trillion economy, are there sectors you're looking towards? I know you don't like to specify sectors, but are there trends you're watching out for?
I don't like to specify sectors only because I believe that the sector hunt is not great for investors. But, I really believe in diversified portfolios. But I think you will see a number of underpenetrated opportunities emerging. And for instance, and there are two kinds of sectors, I would say. One, there is themes, and then second, there are sectors. So, for instance, I think the movement of unbranded to branded, unorganized to organized, which cuts across sectors, is a very powerful theme. I think because of digitization, the way you do business has changed. Before, if an HUL wanted to set up a makeup company, they needed huge physical distribution and huge physical marketing. Today, a minimalist which HUL bought, can run a D2C brand. And I think you will see the creation of lots of brands across categories. So that's one theme that I believe is cross-sector. I think there are many many under-penetrated areas of consumptions. For instance, I travel a ton. Hotels. We are short of hotels. In Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore ko chhod dijiye, every other market we are short of hotels. Same is true of hospitals. Capital markets, my own industry, your industry, hugely under-penetrated categories. So I think you're going to see the emergence of some of these new age categories, and the way individual The sector may still be financial services, but there may be a change in what is financial services.
Tangents within a large sector.
Yeah, there'll be shifts within the sector.
Wonderful.
Like in retail, you saw the shift from physical to quick commerce.
Yes.
In financial services, maybe you're seeing a shift from banks to capital markets.
Okay, great. Let's talk about over diversification a little bit. Is there a line where you get to know that your portfolio is over diversified?
Oh my God, you see so many over diversified portfolios these days. I think I put up this tweet of some guy doing a 15,000 rupee SIP across 35 funds. And I literally see people with 60 schemes, 100 schemes, 200 schemes. I promise you, you're over diversified because people think diversification is holding lots of products. Diversification is like a balanced diet. If I told you कि आप एक डाइट में चावल भी खा रहे हैं, रोटी भी खा रहे हैं, कॉर्न भी खा रहे हैं, आलू भी खा रहे हैं, आप कहोगे यार सिर्फ कार्ब भी खा रहे हो. Diversified है, but it's a diversified carb diet, right? You want a balanced diet. So you want carb, you want protein, you want a little bit of fat. You can't live a diet without any fat. You want a diversified portfolio is one where you have assets that do well at different times. So rather than having 10 equity funds of the same AMC, you're better off holding 6 equity funds, some large, some mid, some small, maybe a China fund and maybe a US fund. And then you add a touch of gold and silver and you add a touch of fixed income.
You basically
That's
constructed
diverse.
a portfolio for us right now.
I actually think the average person doesn't need more than 8 to 12 funds. And if you use fund of fund structures and multi-asset funds and hybrid funds, you need even less.
What would you say to investors like these? Because आजकल होता क्या है, there is so much information, there is so many products to choose from. What is the easiest way to figure out what you need and, you know, depending on what your goals are?
I would give you my restaurant analogy. Every day in Mumbai, a new restaurant opens. Do you go eat at every restaurant in Mumbai? It's impossible, right? You just don't get indigestion. I think you need to figure out the 4 or 5 different mutual fund categories that work for your diet. And most of them are going to be very dal chawal type categories. Flexi cap fund, mid cap fund, maybe aggressive hybrid or multi-asset fund. And within each category, you hold maximum 2 funds of different AMCs which have different styles. That is actually all investors need to do.
Now, for example, आपने कहा था एक इंटरव्यू में कि that if there is an SIP that you're putting, you mentioned 10 crore corpus.
Oh, that's for my son's education.
For your son's education, right? But is that the only way to plan for your child's education? What are the other avenues? Because this is usually a life goal for many people.
I think the important thing is you plan for your child's education. Now, and I know when I put out this statement, there was a lot of noise about 10 crore. Firstly, my son is 3. So it's not 10 crores today. It's 10 crores when he's 18 years old, which is actually 2.5-3 crore today. Now, 2.5-3 crore today, this is for a US education because I assumed the most expensive. I would argue even if you're going to IIM or one of the top B schools plus undergrad, आपको 70-80 लाख तो आज इंडिया के एजुकेशन के लिए भी चाहिए.
True.
So one of my points of that post was also to raise awareness of the rising costs of education. Now, my point on education is this. You have to plan for it. Whether you set up a SIP for your child or you put it as part of your life goals, doesn't matter. I like to segregate it because when you link SIPs with goals, then you know कि यार इसको मुझे ना 20 साल छूना नहीं है, वो पढ़ाई वाला है. And then there's that emotional discipline that comes with it. The second is you can also be more targeted. So with my own portfolio, I'm frankly a lot more conservative because I'm 40, I'm married to someone in capital markets. My son has small cap fund, US tech fund, mid cap momentum fund, things like this that are a lot more aggressive because I have a 15-year horizon. So the important thing is planning for it. Now, how you plan for it, you decide. Whether you want to put together a lump sum investment, whether you want to do a monthly SIP, you decide, but plan for it.
Plan for it, okay. There are so many innovative products that you've spoken about right now. Are there products that you had faith in but they didn't work?
Yeah, not really, I would say. I mean, there are products that don't work at a given point in time. That certainly happens. I mean, for instance, we spoke about smart beta. Momentum hasn't had the greatest year. So whether it's actively managed or passively managed momentum funds, and we run some of those haven't worked at a point in time. Recently listed IPO fund I've spoken about. There are periods when IPO markets are volatile, it doesn't work. You know, we're having a conversation today about international funds. A year ago, I was getting huge flack for China fund. And many people buy China fund. They're the largest in the category. So I think there are products that don't work at a certain point in time. That is for sure.
I think you've already touched upon this, but I'll ask this question again, and this is to do with sort of unlisted market versus, listed reality. A lot of retail investors viewing unlisted equities as that sure shot lottery ticket.
Oh my God.
How would you advise those people?
Don't. It's not magic. Finally, the private market and the public market have to converge, and the private guys have learnt this the very hard way. So don't fall for this narrative कि अगर मैं प्राइवेट मार्केट में किसी भी भाव में ले लूँगा तो एक दिन IPO होगा और उससे ज़्यादा में लिस्ट होगा. क्यों होगा भाई? जो इन्वेस्टर पब्लिक मार्केट में वो कंपनी लेगा उसके पास और भी तो ऑप्शंस हैं पब्लिक मार्केट में. और वो वही चीज़ जब वो कंपनी पब्लिक होगी 2 गुना दाम में क्यों लेगा? उसमें भी तो कुछ सैनिटी है, उसको भी तो कुछ रिटर्न चाहिए. एंड the other problem people have with private markets is liquidity नहीं होती. और जब कंपनी अच्छी होती है तो फिर भी लिक्विडिटी होती है. जब कंपनी बुरी होती है लिक्विडिटी is zero. That is why it's called private market. So again, this is pickle and chutney of your portfolio. I am telling you, as someone who's a somewhat prolific investor in startups, 1 out of 10 company probably works, 9 out of 10 fail.
True. There are enough examples of that.
There are enough examples of that.
Yeah.
So there's no magic in private markets.
I want to move on to some investor behavior patterns that you may have seen. And in your own journey as an investor, were there any behavioral styles of investing that you changed which you felt were not working for you?
I've evolved my personal finance with my life. And I think that has been my big learning, that finally the way I invest is a function of my goals and circumstances at that point in time. So I started off young, Wall Street kid, not having seen much money after student loans, being very aggressive, dumping stuff into equity, very rash. Lost a lot of money in 2008. Husband was in the same career. Never made the mistake of not having contingency funds and all again, and became a lot more calibrated after that. Then was an entrepreneur building a small portfolio, and after we sold the first company, started investing, but in a more thought through way. Realized that there are life goals, including buying a home, which is a big one. So did a lot of hybrid funds, etc., etc. Build up a portfolio through SIPs. Then as the goals got done, started being a lot more aggressive in building up an equity portfolio, because we didn't have to contribute as much to home. And now with the kid, of course, we're evolving goals for the child. So I think the learnings have been to do what works for you, to not rebalance too frequently, but to do a structural review every 5 years because life circumstances change, to really stick to simple instruments. And the little bit of fun I have with my investments is my startup portfolio. Otherwise, everything is mutual funds.
Okay. You mentioned buying a house. ये बहुत बड़ी debate है, and I think you've addressed this in your book as well. Buying a home versus renting a home. For young professionals, it seems they'd rather invest in the experience than in real estate, lock their capital there. So, your take?
So, I talk about this in the book Mango Millionaire, and I really think a first home is an emotional call, and there is no right or wrong answer. If you look at the investment economics of real estate and a first home, they make no sense. Okay, rental yield is 2-3%. The asset is illiquid; it can't be partially liquidable, एंड आपको बैंक में 7-8% मिल जाता है, तो उसकी फाइनेंशियल इकोनॉमिक्स तो होती नहीं. Now, I am an investment professional. You think I am very logical? I still own a home. I've spent a lot of money on a home. Why? Because you can't live in an NAV in life. Na? Unfortunately, as much as I love mutual funds, I can't live in one. Na? So there is a joy for me, for bringing up my son in his own house and sitting in my balcony. I have a huge walk-in closet which I'm obsessed with. So these are इसमें logic नहीं, okay? There are some people who don't find joys in this. I was talking to a colleague a few days ago. He's like, मुझे इस सब से कोई प्यार नहीं है. मैं रेंट पे बहुत खुश हूँ and I don't want to do the capex. I'd rather spend that money with experiences.
Yeah.
It's a personal call. So I always say, if the emotions matter to you, don't see the spreadsheet. If they don't matter to you, please follow the spreadsheet. If you are buying a home, find the balance, and I've given a formula in the book, between taking an EMI, if you are, because most people do, that gives you the home that you need but doesn't stress you out, because an EMI should not be a source of mental.
You know, I like to say कुछ चीजें धन के लिए, कुछ चीजें मन के लिए.
तो ये मन की बात है.
मन की बात.
अगर आपके मन को इम्पोर्टेंस है, अब कुछ लोगों के मन में, अगर I know many fund managers who have huge net worth who live in rented homes, because वो धन is more important than मन, और मन में इतना वो है ही नहीं, तो it's okay.
Figure out what works for you.
You just decide.
Perfect.
And there is a trade-off, right? When you save money to pay that down payment and to do those EMIs, you compromise.
Yes.
On OPEX or other life experiences. So it's a choice.
Okay. Investing में we always talk about the power of compounding. That's sort of a given, right? But are there any other investing principles that you feel retail investors overlook?
I mean, there's a long list, but I think chasing after what other people are doing and the power of FOMO, especially with all this social media, is absolutely crazy. I mean, the amount of stuff that I saw it on Instagram, or my neighbor or the RWA uncle can cause you to do is crazy. And I always say, don't do something because you don't understand it, because it was in a rush, no investment opportunity is running away, and because someone else did it. And there's this other new thing that's coming up, which I haven't spoken about, but it's basically this desire to do something if it's bespoke, if it's exclusive. It's like, I will not do a sip or eat dal chawal because वो तो सभी करते हैं. अभी मैं बड़ा हो गया हूँ, मैं अमीर हो गया हूँ, तो मुझे कुछ अलग दिखाओ. And that exclusivity, I mean, everything that is exclusive is not necessarily good. And sometimes doing what everyone else does is also good. It's like, just because you get rich doesn't mean that you don't sleep 8 hours a day. All people should sleep 8 hours a day, right? So this desire for exclusivity and experiences, I think Coldplay concert can be an experience, but I don't think investing has to be an experience.
So well put. And you know, that brings me to another question. You mentioned social media, and we're kind of living in this world of instant gratification. So जब माहौल instant gratification का है, how do you develop patience? Because that's so important for an investor.
You actually don't review your portfolio very frequently, and I don't know if I should say this. I review my portfolio once a quarter, and I make changes, that too small changes, once a year. And I make structural changes every 5 years. You just don't look at stuff that frequently, because, you know, you have to realize, what are you investing in? You are investing not in mutual funds, not in stocks, you're investing in companies. अब मैं एक कंपनी की CEO हूँ. I can tell you, मेरी कंपनी हर दिन नहीं बदलती. मेरी कंपनी का एक बैड क्वार्टर होगा. लेकिन अगर मैं होगा तो मैं धंधा नहीं बंद करूँगी. So why should I sell the stock? And that's finally what you're investing in. Neither companies nor your life goals change every quarter. The rest is all noise.
So to that end, we are all listening to a lot of noise. There is a lot of advice from everyone. What is the one mistake which you feel has become the most common mistake?
Chasing 1-year returns. And it really whacks up your expectations of what to do with money. So right now, I mean, a year ago, the 1-year returns on a lot of assets were looking like 20%, 30%, etc. Right now, the 1-year return on equities is looking like 4%. What is true? Neither. And I've been this big advocate of looking at long-term returns and rolling returns, because 1-year returns tell you nothing. The 1-year returns are on our China fund, I was told today, are 40%. Does that mean China is going to give you 40% a year? No. And suddenly I see in anything, because I look at fund-wise stuff, the moment the 1-year returns rise, flows start coming in. The 1-year returns mean nothing.
In fact, there was a period, right, where China and Japan, the economy was doing well, but the markets were not. So we have to have that perspective.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the 1-year returns on China don't mean anything.
So from an investor's standpoint, SIF's ability to allocate 25% of its portfolio to derivatives introduces this opportunity for, higher reward, but there is risk as well. In this context, why did Edelweiss opt to launch a hybrid-based SIF rather than a more aggressive variant?
I think 2-3 reasons. One is our capability around fixed income plus derivatives, and this category is very high. We have an existing team. We run subsets of these strategies in a lot of existing funds, और वही launch करना चाहिए जो manage करना आता है. So that's one. Second is the market environment. I think there are a lot of risk-based products out in the market. But post the change in debt taxation, lower risk ways to earn absolute returns, products are less. So this is a category we wanted to target. And third, I think even for the ecosystem and for consumers, starting with something conservative and then building up is how we want to play this category. We'll do other stuff in this category, but this was the reason.
Okay. Parting note, Radhika, you are seen as someone who's brought a lot of credibility and clarity to the mutual fund space. Your recommendation to people who might be just starting out, and I also mean a lot of women who are just starting out, why they should be investing, what's the easiest way for them to build a corpus for themselves, say 5 years, 10 years down the line?
Because it's not meant to be a plug for the profession or for the book, but I do think that in the next decade or 2 decades, we will see lots of men and women becoming mango millionaires, and you can decide what your definition of that is. With the kind of economic growth India will see, capital markets will give you meaningful returns. And we all work very hard in India to earn money. Between the commute and especially with women, the household responsibilities, and we work hard. I just think money should not be left to chill in a bank. It should work hard. And I do believe, and this is a line my mother-in-law said, even though it's my job, that mutual funds are the highest return on effort way to earn decent returns on your portfolio without putting too much time. In the book, this is probably the first personal finance book where we have not spoken about how to buy stocks or what a PE ratio is or what valuations are, because we actually believe that through just mutual funds and decent life and health cover, you can build a very meaningful financial existence, portfolio, and life for yourself. And my only advice would be to get educated, which is why I think content like this is very useful. Start. Don't be afraid if you've made mistakes, because everyone does, including financial institutions. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. And then let your journey play out. But I genuinely believe that for the return on effort, mutual funds are a great way to build out mango millionaires.
Absolutely. I think you're playing such an important part in creating those mango millionaires as well. So thank you so much, Radhika, for joining us on Grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. Please read the risk disclosure documents carefully before investing in equity shares, derivatives, mutual fund, and or other instruments traded on the stock exchanges.